recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, most legally available drug on the planet. Well, I guess it is. I don't know actually, it doesn't matter, but alcohol was my drug of choice. And my behaviour, equally addictive, work, relationships, collecting, materialism, all free. But no, every time we go to the extremes of behaviour, we are obsessed. We become single-minded of purpose. We're striving for perfection in some way, probably. Best drinker, best worker, best at relationships, best collection of whatever it is. And these days, I prefer not to be in obsession and away from self-harm, which is where perfection took me. And underlying this need for perfection, fear of not being good enough. So everybody's striving, everybody needing to be included in life, and some of us just take it too far because we just don't know whether we're good enough. So these days I've learned it's okay to be good enough to live, good enough to be a part of, good enough to be included and helped along the way. Perfection meant that I had to go it alone. I was against the world. I was fighting a battle. And these days I realise that life is not a battle, although we strive at living, because that's what's good for us probably, having a bit of dynamic stress in our lives rather than distress, caused either by extreme lows or extreme highs. So somewhere in the middle is balance, and as has been said many times, balance is something I see as I swing by. So these days I'm trying to get somewhere near the middle of where I can feel okay, understand that it's alright to live in this one present moment we have, living in the present moment of now, and it's imperfectly perfect. So what about recovery? How did I get there? Well, very, very simple. I started to listen to other people, and I actually said when I was at my lowest, well, I thought it was my lowest, it wasn't, I can't do this on my own, and if it doesn't get any worse than this, where can it go from here? It can only get better. I was a bit mistaken at the time. It did get worse, but at least at that moment of clarity I understood I needed help. And I remember consulting family. I've been offered a place in a drying out, I don't know what they call it, it was a charity, and they had a 3-week detox unit. So I went there for 3 weeks and then ended up going to a rehab, which I self-discharged from in rage. And what did I do then? I went and got some liquor from the local off-licence and said, I'll show you. And then I was back on the floor. And it's awful because we end up in the gutter, we end up unable to communicate with family because we feel so bad and angry and rageful, and we don't know how to move on. So what helps me these days? Well, family, community, professionals, because I can actually say, please help me, and then I have a chance. And what's paramount to me is sober, and what keeps me sober is the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, or rather I keep myself sober with the help of and included in the fellowship. But it is said to be an inside job, and that's what it is. We learn how to be ourselves, and I guess that's what I was struggling with all my life, until I found that sober living offered me the opportunity to find out who I am on a daily basis. So for me, Alcoholics Anonymous is absolutely essential to my well-being, because it's not only a fellowship. I've found friends, I've found out how to be sober, and more importantly, how to live sober, to experience this ever-present, imperfectly perfect moment of now. So AA, I share about it and a bit of the readings, and then I'm putting out the message of hope to other people. Anyway, the AA preamble sums it up, or the AA statement of intent, and this is what it says. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So I share a message as best I can, mainly for people who couldn't get out and about when I started them, but then it sort of became part of my daily routine. And it helps me because it means that I do my daily meditations and reflections. And it's not just about reading them, it's about then what am I going to do about it. So in this book, this Daily Reflections book, I share from this. And in this book, it covers the 12 steps of the AA Fellowship for individuals, 12 steps to change our attitude and behaviour on a daily basis. And it takes a bit of time to understand what they're about, as it takes a bit of time to understand what life can be like sober. And the gift for me is, it covers one step a month. So if we cover one step a month in this book, we are refreshing our understanding of each step as we go. So step 2, February, all about being restored to sanity by a higher power. And you know, when I was at my lowest, I had no power, and now I'm sort of even and I suppose not at the extremes of life. I realise that I need help from other people. I need to know what the truth of now is, and I need to know what my emotions are doing. I need to actually acknowledge how I'm feeling on a daily basis. So the steps of AA are about emotional, spiritual, physical well-being. They won't make you rich, they won't make you poor. Life does that. And as far as relationships go, we are just open to living life and seeing where relationships go. Friendship, love, whatever it may be. One day maybe I'll get married, but it hasn't happened yet, and that's not a problem. So the reading for today, bearing in mind it's about being restored to sanity, it talks about guidance. Guidance. This means a belief in a creator who is all power, justice and love. A God who intends for me a purpose, a meaning, a destiny to grow, however haltingly, toward his own likeness and image. That's strong stuff. And you know, for me, God is truth, God is love, God works through people, and I need to keep it that simple, because if I try and make it more complicated, I get thinking about it rather than living life. So it's all about living for me. But it's important I share what it says in here, because it is strongly believed by many people, and that's perfectly good for me. As I began to understand my own powerlessness and my dependence on God as I understand Him, I began to see there was a life which, if I could have it, I would have chosen for myself from the beginning. It is through the continuing work of the steps and the life in the fellowship that I've learned to see that there is truly a better way in which I am being guided. As I come to know more about God, I am able to trust His ways, His plans for the development of His character in me. Quickly or not so slowly. Sorry to say that again. Quickly or not so quickly, I grow towards His image and likeness. And for me, when I say, you know, God is truth, if I put truth in where God is there, and know that God works through people, the truth works through people, so I am more informed every day. We are becoming what we are becoming because of our potential, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. So, coming to the end, and I didn't have time to do any of the quotes I would have liked to, but guidance comes in many forms, and it comes mainly from our life experience, being with other people, and being able to listen to them, listen to other people, and that other thing called love. Truth, listening, love, to be included in the world rather than where we were excluded and isolated. Anyway, the Serenity Prayer, a prayer and meditation, whenever life is a bit weird or not quite right, or just because it is right, it's to God or good conscience or just simply the truth, whichever is your higher power. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and simply to know the difference is just for today, because we are always making progress. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My substance, alcohol, my behaviour, trying to be perfect, 2 careers, workaholic, never perfect, always striving for perfection, I suspect, or whatever it was you thought I ought to do. And these days I'm learning one day at a time just how to make life work without a drink and without obsessive behaviours or addictions to behaviour. What makes it possible? Well, being in a fellowship which is simply there for one reason, and that's to stay sober for one day only, just for today, and that's Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't speak for it, no one speaks for it, it's just a fellowship of people. And at the beginning of every meeting I go to, we share the preamble of each meeting, and it goes like this. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes, and has no opinion on my videos. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And having said that, many people might have an opinion on my videos as either helpful or unhelpful. It's just a question of what is working for a person on a daily basis. So the primary reason why I do these videos is for my own sort of daily meditation, to remind myself who I am, what I need contend with, and live just this one day. So besides being in recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour, I also have type 1 diabetes, which I got simply because I lived longer than I maybe would have otherwise done, and properly got diagnosed with clinical depression. And at the moment I'm going through regime change, if you like, to do with type 1 diabetes and clinical depression. So there were contraindications to the medications I was taking, so I'm having a bit of a rough ride, if you like. Reduction of all medications, some have stopped. Obviously my insulin hasn't stopped, I need that to survive. I don't make insulin anymore. And insulin helps the endocrine system work, which is all about all those glands in the head which make an impact on mood. So without the insulin, without the endocrine system, I wouldn't be here. So the gift really is I'm having to live through some very difficult times, and it is difficult, and pain relief, none at all, so pain is back, and also no antidepressants, one of which was also helping block the pain or the neurotransmitters which impact. So it's not easy, but at the same time simply going to meetings of the Fellowship of AA keeps me on track in the 12-step action program and enabling me to make life work for one day. Yesterday was an interesting day, simply because when I went to my first meeting, which is at the hut just off Flood Street, off the King's Road in Chelsea, we couldn't get in, the security in the keypad didn't work, and for the first time in some years I went into a pub, into that upstairs room where we held the meeting. How about that then, a fellowship meeting of AA in the upstairs of the pub. I don't know that that is so unusual. I've heard it said that these things happen, and it was ironic because one of our not our leaders, but the secretary went in and asked, as it's just opposite, could we use your upstairs room because we can't get into our venue? They said yes, and free of charge, but we did leave some money to put to their favourite charity. And it was a really good meeting in a different venue, different outlook, and I heard some good experience, strength and hope, and a share which confirmed to me that we come to understand a higher power which helps us be restored to sanity. And this is step 2, and there are 12 steps of action in the program, 12 months in the year, so I'm concentrating on each step as each month passes. And step 2, as it reads, is came to believe in a power greater than us which would restore us to sanity, is also supplemented in this book, The Daily Reflections, which is a 1-page a day sort of mental jogger, if you like. Something to remind us of what we're trying to do, besides live a normal life, just trying to make each day work. And for February 22nd it says, guidance. This means a belief in a Creator who is all power, justice and love, a God who intends for me a purpose, a meaning and a destiny to grow, however haltingly, toward his own likeness and image. That's a lot to swallow in one go, and I'm still working on what that might mean for me. But what it says here, as I began to understand my own powerlessness and my dependence on God, and for me, this is just me, by the way, God is truth, God works through people, God is love. Mine's a nuts and bolts version. Dependence on God as I understand him, as your understanding. I began to see there was a life which, if I could have it, I would have chosen for myself from the beginning. It is through the continuing work of the steps and the life in the fellowship that I've learned to see that there is truly a better way into which I am being guided. As I come to know more about God, I am able to trust his ways and his plans for the development of his character in me. Quickly or not so quickly, I grow towards his own image and likeness. And for me, I just don't know what that means. But what I do know, if I say to myself, anywhere it says God, put truth in there. For the truth of now, what is possible for me in good conscience, life seems to be a lot easier to manage, as if I manage it at all. I just interact, and I'm interdependent with everyone and anyone about how my life may be on a daily basis. And in this book, as Phil sees it, again, a daily read. You can read more if you want to, but I actually find that reading one day here on YouTube helps me just get back and settled into the moment of now, living in this one moment. It says, page 36, humility first. We found many in AA who once thought, as we did, that humility was another name for weakness. They helped us to get down to our right size. By their example, they showed us that humility and intellect could be compatible, provided we placed humility first. When we began to do that, we received the gift of faith, a faith which works. This faith is for you, too. Where humility formerly stood for a forced feeding of humble pie, it now begins to mean the nourishing ingredient that can give us serenity. And as I've found, serenity is not happiness as such. Serenity is accepting the things we can do and the things we can't do, and learning the wisdom to know the difference. And the idea of humility coming first. Humility for me just means, as it says there, getting down to our right size. And the right size really is the same size as any other human on the planet. And I guess that fits in with my understanding of equal rights for all. So in a world which is very unequal in how it dishes out or how things happen, and we have happenstance, we don't know where we're going to be born or what we might encounter, the gift of recovery now enables me to find something approaching normal, a normal place to live. Normal living, normal aspirations, normal understanding of the here and now. So if I can access the truth of now more often, I am no longer captured or stuck in my past and worrying about what the future may hold for me. And especially, with a couple of other conditions thrown in on top of recovery, I can say with hand on heart that I never anticipated being type 1 diabetic, never anticipated being diagnosed with clinical depression, but these conditions I have. So the acceptance is that I'm just as susceptible to anything on the planet. I'm no bigger, no smaller, no different, not special and different in any shape or form, and I can keep to being right-sized. So my intentions today, I went to a meeting last night and it was all about, find ourselves, forget ourselves, forgive ourselves and forget ourselves. All about to love, be loved and have something useful to do. Pretty much what normal people do on a daily basis. So I'm feeling like I'm in the right place, but pain is hard today. And waking up, I was very groggy. It's almost the opposite of a hangover, but it has the same effect. It can be very difficult to get going. What helps me is the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.